I was cleaning up kind of scrap wood that I have, from other projects, and I had that nice slab of oak that I really didn't have a use for. It's not big enough to really make boards out of or anything. It's the side pieces that I cut off of one, and I took to what I wanted, and that's the leftover. But a lot of times I'll make a bench out of those. It's just handy, and I thought, well, I could use one in the garden. I call them pigs because it's just, 4 sticks drove in there and a long body on them. And I never get too fancy on them. Normally, when I do those for the legs, I just use ironwood. Well, I happen to have some oak, and I decided I'd use that. But in using the oak, or really any wood, when you're doing this kind of thing, you want to split the pieces out. You don't just go and saw them. You split them so that you can work with the grain. It makes it stronger, and then you've got to taper them up to where they go in. That way it spreads the load. If you just have them, if you had like a 2-inch piece and then dropped it down to 1 and jammed her in, well, it's going to break right there. That's just the way it works. You spread it out, it'll flex more. It just evens out the pressure on it. And then this I've got to, now before I pound them in, I'm going to round these ends off, because when I put them in there now, they're put in at an angle, both back and out. Well, I don't know if this is in the camera, but this is the shaving horse. It's done the same way, the same method, except that was ironwood. But the idea then being that the bottoms will be out on the corners of the bench. It just makes it more stable. Like if you were to go straight up and down with them, it'd be really tipsy. This way you spread the load out. I've done quite a few of those, whenever I need one. And then if you break a leg on a pig, you cut it up with firewood. One thing, when I split them out, you'll usually gin with pretty straight grain. Now this has got a wave to it. Now that's kind of nice at times. Like I say, where that you have the legs coming out the corner like that. Well, when you get this kind of a curve in there, it's kind of nice to make use of that sometimes. You can have the leg come down, and then it kind of straightens out when it goes to the bottom. That's kind of nice. I won't do it on this one only because, well, I won't. It'll do it to a certain extent. But if you had 4 of them like that, but I've got the rest of them are all pretty straight. But there again, there's a trick with working with any kind of wood like this with a draw knife. Your grain is never going to be, ideally it would work where your grain is kind of coming up like that, so that you're shearing the grain off as you come. But always in this kind of situation, you're going to have some of the grain is going to run the other way. And then what it's going to want to do, well, like here you can see, when you cut that piece, it's going to want to dig in. It's going to want to, and actually it'll dig in all the way back. Now you can get away from a lot of that just by running at an angle. You got much more control over it. Ideally you come from the other direction when you have grain like that, but you don't always have that option. And like I said, the grain can go kind of odd like that. So the trick is to run her at a bit of an angle. Because if you do that, well, more than a bit, but at quite a little bit of an angle, because then what you're doing is you're not just splitting it up with the grain, you're actually slicing. That works. But you can feel it as you're cutting, then you hit a spot where the grain is wavy and it'll do that. And you got the option to either go sideways or turn the whole piece around. This is a nice day for doing this. Just cool enough where it's pleasant working out, and the mosquitoes and the gnats aren't too bad. See, works very well. When you got the grain, so you're coming the right way. But if you get in them spots where the hooks are in, you can fight it unless, especially if you try to go straight like this. What's going to happen? You're gonna split it out all the way down to the end, and you're gonna get chatter marks. If you come at an angle and slice, you don't get those chatter marks. But like I say, this is a simple way of doing a bench. I'm going to be doing a little more complicated one. I need a pair of them to match that oak table, and they're going to be a little different. But for most of the time, this is a good way to make good use of them odds and ends of material that I got laying around. And like I said, it's a pleasant thing to do. Find a nice shady spot, because you are free. Let your mind wander when you're doing this. You get an instinct for doing it. You don't have to really think about it. And normally, I'm just making 4 legs. Normally, in a situation like this, I would make 5, and then discard the poorest example. Like say, if I have them all that are straight, this would be the discard because it's got that. No, I'd save it because this would work fine if I could find 3 more like this. But I'm not getting that fussy on this. But normally that's what I like to do. If I'm making something that requires 4 parts, I will make 5 parts. And drop the weakest one. It's easier to do it that way than to have to go back then and say, oh, I got to make another one. Do them all at the same time. It's like when you're making a pair of shoes, you don't make one shoe, then make the other shoe. You do both steps on the same shoes at the same time. It works out better that way. There's a procedure to these things. But oak is, well, this is really seasoned oak too. It's been sitting around for 5 or 6 years. So it's a good time to make use of it. And like I said, I could always use a bench in the garden. But I got to decide somewhere in this point. One end's got to be the narrow end. I think it's going to be this one. Like I say, normally on these I don't get too fussy. I'll just take a piece of ironwood, cut an end on her, jam her in the hole. You pound them in and then cut the top off. And they stay. I've never had one come loose. If you had a loose one, it would be very easy to do that like you do with a hammer handle or anything. We'll cut a groove in it and put a wedge in it on the top. I mention that because that's kind of how the other benches I will be making are held together with wedges. It's a good way of doing it, but like I say, these pigs are disposable. You use them until they break, and then you burn them. And they aren't fragile. The only time you can break a leg on a pig by, you got a heavy body, skinny leg. If you pick one up and jostle it to the side like that, you can snap a leg off. It's not a big deal. You can easily replace it, but after a while, it's just easier to make a new one. But it's a good thing to do today. Well, I'm busy washing clothes. I better fire up the washer again. That'd be excellent wood kindling. But it's a nice way to spend the day.